Do you want to be that student, an academic weapon, locked in for this new school year? Well, you've come to the right video. Here's 10 study tips plus tricks on how I stay productive. Trust me, you do not want to be that one kid that walks into class to find out that you have a test that day, and most likely you didn't study for that test. To avoid that situation from ever happening, you want to write down any test dates that your teacher gives out. Most of the time, teachers will tell you beforehand, so make sure to be listening. You can write it down on paper or on a Google Doc. Personally, I have a Google Doc where I put the test dates down on, and I put the day of the week right beside it. Sometimes numbers just don't number. This also helps you plan on what to focus on while studying if you do happen to have multiple tests sprawled over a couple of days. The same idea can be applied to when assignments are due. You want to make sure that you're always prepared and that you turn everything in on time so that you do not get a late penalty. This one is a lifesaver. I used to not do this and just do stuff off of memory, but even your memory will fail you sometimes. Make sure you go through each one of your classes and write down what you need to do for that class and when it's due. This will help hold you accountable and keep your work/study sessions more productive. I 100% recommend writing your own notes instead of reading someone else's. When you take notes yourself, you're able to comprehend the live information in a way that you can understand. This way, you'll be processing and understanding the information as you take notes. Then the notes will help serve as a review. What works for someone else's notes might not work for you. Additionally, you should handwrite your own notes instead of typing them. While typing them can allow you to study and get work done faster, it doesn't help you retain the information. According to the study done by Princeton University, typing is more likely to promote your brain to be passive, as it's easier to just copy down whatever your teacher's saying. Handwriting instead forces you to actively retrieve the information and understand as you copy it down. I actually have an in-depth video on how I take notes, so feel free to check it out. Linked in the description. Passive recall is reviewing, for example, reading through your notes, while active recall is forcing your brain to retrieve information. Some ways I like to incorporate active recall is 1. Writing your own study guide. I like to write down what I remember from the unit. Then I'll go back to the packet and add information that I forgot. I'll include an idea of a concept, then I'll provide several examples. For example, the derivative is nx to the exponent of n minus 1, which is the concept. Then right below, I'll provide several examples of finding the derivative. By showing an example, I'm actively doing practice problems to strengthen my understanding of that concept. 2. Talk out loud/review. Pretend that you're teacher/lecturer and you're teaching somebody. For the notes I take, I'll quickly skim the notes I wrote on a page for the general idea. Then I'll talk about what I remember from the idea and then add more in-depth based off of what I wrote. And then afterwards, I can look back on my notes and add the information. Flashcards. They actively test your knowledge. It's almost like a mini quiz at the moment. You can write some on flashcards, cut out bits of paper, or do online ones. I personally recommend the Quizlet write function. They are essentially flashcards, except you're forced to write out the answer to them. This reinforces memory retention. Previously, I said that typing notes is bad because there's a higher chance of leading to passive recall. This is different because you're actively recalling to answer the questions with typing. This is especially helpful for learning vocab or another language. Practice exams/old questions. 2 practice problems. Just understanding the information isn't good enough. You have to be able to apply it. A good example is in math. Understanding comes from practice. After all, practice makes perfect. You can practice from practice exams, questions from old classwork, Quizlet, etc. When your teacher grades or passes back classwork, make an effort to review and understand your mistakes. Most likely, they will have marked what you got wrong. For example, in Spanish class, my teacher would pass back our essays and circle grammar errors, etc. I'd go back over those mistakes with a red pen as if I was grading it, and I would write down what was correct and why it's correct. Additionally, I'd try to understand what led me to the incorrect answer. If you don't understand what you got wrong and you shyly put your paper in your folder to hide the bad grade, you're only going to make the same mistakes over and over again. A bad grade just means that you have the most potential out of anyone else to improve. This is the notebook that I use to do everything, from practice problems, study guides, review, and questions, aka why this is the notebook. You can use any notebook you have. In fact, I recommend using an old notebook. Also, what goes in this notebook does not need to be aesthetic. It's just to get everything out. I typically use the backs of pages that I didn't use before, or the empty pages in the backs of old notebooks, so that way I'm finishing a notebook and I'm not wasting anything. And then I started using it as the notebook, and I've actually written on every page. This notebook used to belong to, I think, my mom. She wrote some stuff in here. There's honestly, everything is honestly just in here. Like right here, we have some math work, I believe. Some math review I did, that's just in another random color. I have a study guide where I'm summing up the stuff I'm writing. For example, unit 5.5 was about absolute extremas, 5.6 was about concavity. I like to write little notes to myself too, like label units and numbers that they give you beforehand so you know what equals what and you can just plug it in. In this notebook, if you're doing a practice problem or stumble upon something that you don't quite understand, highlight it with an ugly highlighter. Use a color that you typically would never use. This will make it stand out so that you can immediately find what you don't understand. Additionally, I like to write down important stuff with a red pen. Don't start off your day with social media or on your phone. This leads to an unnatural dopamine spike. What does that mean? It means that it'll be harder for you to study because studying gives you much less dopamine than social media. This means that when you try to take breaks, try to stay away from social media because it'll be harder to lock in afterwards. Instead, during breaks, try getting in some movement or exercise. It can be as simple as standing up and pacing around. In fact, movement has been shown to improve memory retention. According to this study done by Harvard University, exercise enlarges certain parts of the brain, which leads to better memory retention. Additionally, if you've been sitting for too long, you can review stuff while walking around, with active recall, of course. This also helps with memory retention. Whenever I have work, I always make sure to take out everything I need to complete it, and I put it on my table. For example, if I have Spanish homework, physics homework, and maybe I have a project due for English, I'll put my Spanish folder, my physics notebook, and maybe a blank sheet of paper on the empty side of my table. That way, it helps serve as a physical reminder on my table, as it's literally just staring at me, and I can't get rid of it until I finish it, so my table stays occupied, or messy. The same thing applies for studying. If I have a math test, I'll take out the notebook that I have, I'll flip it to a blank page, and I'll just leave it there on my desk, usually with a math packet beside it so that I can write a study guide for it, or with it open on a new tab. Don't rely on something as flimsy as motivation. What matters is that you pull up every day and beat motivation with discipline. If you ever feel like you never have time to finish anything, it's not that you don't have time. You just have poor time management. Write out a schedule and plan when you're going to get work done or study. Less is more. While studying for 8 hours on one subject seems productive, it's much more efficient and productive to study for only 2 hours on individual subjects. However, you need to find what works best for you. I like to stay productive by Putting my phone away, silent, out of sight. I like to put it in my drawer so that I can't easily reach for it. Remove any distractions. This might be like closing out YouTube tabs or tabs for social media on your computer as you're studying. Having a clean study environment. Music. I like to use music that has no lyrics or it's in a different language so that I can't sing along or understand what it's singing about. Sometimes I also like to listen to people talk. Do what suits you best. Make a Pinterest board for inspiration. You can pretend that you're being filmed or live streamed so you can't really be caught lacking. Or you can actually grab your phone and physically film yourself. Providing rewards. This might be like watching your favorite show after studying, having a sweet treat. Lastly, believe in yourself. If you don't believe in yourself, no one else will. If you keep saying that you're bad at something or lazy, you will be bad at that and you will be lazy. You become what you see yourself as. So have a positive mindset and believe in yourself. Good luck on your studies, and you got this.